Many times I have gone down to the potting shed and sat there still as still, and yet I have seen nothing. Sometimes I have felt fairies around me, but nothing more. But today, something amazing happened. Every now and then I catch myself mindlessly surfing the web, scrolling those endless scrolls, until I come across with something so new, so outrageously out of my circle, that I can't help myself but start low-key obsessing over it. This time what triggered me is the phrase Goblincore. Hey you guys, welcome back to our channel, the #1 place for people who love design, art and all things creative. You are watching DMB's channel, my name is Laszlo and I do graphics and illustration. In this video I thought we should discuss how young people of today, the so-called TikTok generation and their Gen Z aesthetics can, and I think will, change the creative industries in the coming years. The appearance of new terms like cottagecore, fairycore, Goblincore, dark academia, amongst many others, are going to shake up the future of art and design as we know it. Now, before we jump into this topic way too deep, let's address the obvious, cause I know exactly what you're thinking. What do I know about any of this? Me, a by-the-book millennial who's sitting here in a plaid shirt like it's still 2012. Do I have the rights to talk about this? Can I even talk about this? Can different generations really get into each other's different mindsets, or is that just a pipe dream? Is there a way I can send out a message about this topic without being cringy as hell? I know I'm treading on very dangerous waters here. I mean, after a certain age, even the word cringe kinda sounds cringy. Anyway, let's start where it all began. What triggered me to dive deep into the psyche of fairycore, Goblincore, dark academia, and all these things I'm way too old to be projected to on a regular basis? Well, it was a combination of a couple different things actually. Cottagecore was the first one that we came across with, and as we quite liked it, Jacqueline actually made a brilliant video all about the cottagecore design style, which you can find here, but in case you aren't in the know, cottagecore as a concept embraces a simpler, sustainable existence that is more harmonious with nature. Aesthetically speaking, it's a nostalgic nod to the traditional English countryside, and it's a way to escape our modern lives so we can romanticize the timeless simplicities of gardening, sipping on a hot cup of tea, making sourdough bread, foraging mushrooms in a nearby forest, and other seemingly mundane activities that force people to take a pause. Enjoying your own company and living with intention. I wonder what triggered this movement in the last year or so. The funny thing is, once we started researching into cottagecore, it very quickly branched out to all these other Gen Z aesthetics, like Goblincore, which initially I found hard to take seriously, I admit, but it's essentially nothing more than the appreciation of aspects of nature not typically regarded as beautiful. Things like frogs, snails, mud, mushrooms, things that are ugly but in a charming way, like a traditional fairy tale goblin. And reading up on this I thought, well, that's kinda cool. And fairycore, just to quickly mention it, is basically the complete opposite of this. Building on cottagecore again, but this time focusing on flowers, pastel colors and springtime instead of this clearly very autumn, fall-dominated goblin aesthetic. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's literally hundreds of other aesthetics like these, which I will not get into, otherwise this video could be 6 hours long. Now let's take a quick pause here, because I can feel that you're not convinced yet. Goblincore? Really, Laszlo? Is this fairyette? Isn't it just a bunch of kids doing hippie like playing dress up and collecting rocks? What does any of this has got to do with graphic design or the creative industries in general? Well, first of all, an aesthetic per se might start with only one creative outlet, like cottagecore starting with home decor, but then it evolves and moves on to other things, like fashion, arts and crafts, and before you know it, the whole idea surrounds you. Second of all, if you are watching our channel, chances are you're either a working creative or someone who is striving to be one. In either case, one thing that design school doesn't teach you is, in order to be good at your job, you can't stop at the technicalities. Knowing all the hotkeys in Photoshop or being the fastest 3D renderer, those kind of things are really nice, practical things, but all of that technical knowledge is in vain if you miss the assignment, right? And to not miss the assignment, you need to study not just your craft, you need to study people. If you are doing any form of commissioned creative work, a huge part of the job is knowing what people want you to make for them. which is almost like a sixth sense, which something can't be perfected, but that's not true. To get good at that, you need to be aware of what influences people's taste. And these currently trendy things, as strange as they might sound, they do have the power to influence and develop taste, especially on young minds. Those guys on TikTok are making life-changing memories. Even if it's all just a fad that will go away soon, it will find its way back. Do you know why? One simple word: nostalgia. The biggest creative brands in the world, they know that utilizing the power of nostalgia, making content that resembles our childhood, making us feel young again, is a super powerful thing. I mean, look at what Disney has been feeding us in recent years. Everything they have done in the 90s is back. Everything. Everything is geared towards, well, me, people my age, the so-called 90s kids, the millennials. But once we get too old to market for, which, let's be honest, is not that far away now, they will move on to catering for the next generation. You might write off teenagers who create Goblincore or fairycore TikTok videos, but they're not gonna stay kids forever. Today's college and high school kids are tomorrow's workers. Give it 5-6 years and these people will have serious buying power. They are going to start businesses, they are going to invest and build things on their own. And in those professional journeys, they're going to reach out for creatives, artists and designers like us, to help them realize their vision. Listen, I did 2 videos recently about a branding project for this ecology magazine I helped designing. Now I hope she wouldn't mind me saying this, but the client who commissioned these logos and graphics is quite young, and she made a very strong point early on in the process that she doesn't want to go for something quote-unquote clean or modern looking in her branding. She'd much rather play with arty, vintage, handmade vibes in her business. So me, personally, I have already experienced this somewhat change in the creative industries. Of course, you never know how things will play out in the end, but I think there's a good chance that this clean, millennial minimalism as a style might fade away a little bit in the next couple of years. There are golden rules of design which will never change, of course, but in terms of design trends and what clients will want to see, I think a lot of that can change into this new direction. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think there is something very wholesome about this next generation rejecting our capitalist ideologies based on consumerism. They don't care about spending money on superficial things like the latest phones, the trendiest sneakers or the flashiest cars, the hustle and bustle of city life. They just want a peaceful life, knitting their own sweaters and make art, real art, which I think is brilliant. Now, I thought as a farewell present I would recommend to you some very Goblincore/fairycore books that you can get inspired by as an artist or a designer. First of all, the one I started the video with is this one, Lady Cuttington's Pressed Fairy book. This is a really quirky, illustrated book, loosely based on the Cuttingley fairy sightings from 1917. If you have no idea what I'm on about, do yourself a favor and Google it, it's quite a charming story. They made it into a movie as well. Now, the second book is this one, Faeries by Brian Froud and Ellen Lee. Now, those guys might be the biggest fantasy artists of our time, and they made this encyclopedia-style book describing a bunch of different types of fairies and goblins, trolls and all that, from folktales and myths from all around the world. And the last one is a new book that I don't actually have a copy of just yet, but I'm going to go and get it at some point because it looks amazing. The Fairies of the Fault Lines by Iris Compier. Now, Iris is an illustrator whose work I've only been closely following for about a year or so, but I just love how through traditional media she has this incredible vision that carries on this great heritage of fairy tale and fairy illustration, which the masters of the craft like Ellen Lee or Brian Froud has started before her. I'm very excited to check that one out, and you should too. So this video has been a little bit of an experiment, I guess, just me rambling on about the wonderful weirdness of art and design. If you liked it and you want to see more stuff like this, I'll leave a whole playlist for you somewhere down there. You'll find it. And while you're at it, join our creative crew. I'm all about graphic design and illustration, and Jacqueline's, my partner's, content is focusing on interior design and architecture. If you enjoyed this video, you will love some of her recent stuff about cottagecore, autumn decor, and all these little insights and tutorials. Leave a like to help us reach even more people with this channel, and I'll hope to see you this time next week with something else. Okay guys? Bye!